This is Steve Robbins. Welcome to the Get It Done Guys, quick and dirty tips to work less and do more. Today we're going to explore how to deal with falling behind on a project. Oh, you know, once we all lived blissfully in nature. We wandered from tree to tree and we ate fruit. We took down an occasional saber-toothed tiger and we generally feasted on whatever nature provided. Life was good. It was also short, very short, too short. Something had to change, and something did. The ancient Babylonians invented science, specifically sundials, and at last we could keep track of time and coordinate our activities in ways never before possible. We could build pyramids. We could make sure that the little pieces at the top arrived when we were ready after we had already put in place the pieces at the bottom. Life was good, at least if you were the pharaoh rather than one of the slaves. And of course, the crowning achievement of our newfound ability to control time is that for the first time in human history, we could miss a deadline. That opened up the human race to a new range of emotions, ranging from shame to anger, despair, blame, dismay. The human experience was growing by leaps and bounds. You can keep yourself from drowning in the shame of missed deadlines, however, with a few simple project management tricks. So all you'll get is the upsides of our newfound ability to manipulate time. First of all, make sure your plans are realistic. You can't fall behind unless you set a milestone in the first place. Presumably you have a deadline because your planning process included a careful consideration of what needed to be done to reach your deliverable. If you plan to knit your schmoopie some exciting underwear for their birthday, the underwear better be done by the time the birthday rolls around. When you're scoping out your project, make sure that you're choosing realistic deadlines. If you've never managed to knit exciting underwear in less than 2 months, plan to get started at least that far in advance. And along with your final deadline, choose a few milestones that will let you know that you've made progress. So 4 weeks in, you should have completed the waistband and one leg of the underwear. If you miss that deadline, you'll know early that you need to crank those knitting needles into high gear to make it by Schmoopie's birthday. This sounds fine and dandy, but just between us, your pointy-haired boss probably makes schedules without actually consulting anyone who knows how long things actually take. They demand impossible results with unrealistic deadlines. So, set an intermediate milestone for the soonest time that you believe you'll be able to demonstrate that the schedule was absurdly, ridiculously unachievable. That way, your boss will be forced to confront the unrealistic schedule as early as possible while there's still time to figure out something realistic to do. Check in often so that you minimize how far behind you fall. Not only should you set a deadline at major milestones, but it's best to have some kind of deadline about twice a week, even if it's only something that you've imposed yourself. Milestones are when you take stock of your progress. If you check in once a week, you could potentially lose an entire week's worth of work before you notice how far behind you've fallen. If you check in twice a week, you'll notice things are slipping when they're only 2 to 3 days behind. This sounds pretty innocuous, right? I mean, it's only a 3-day slip. How long could it possibly take to catch up? And for years, some part of my brain thought, oh, it will take 3 days to catch up from a 3-day slip. No, that's totally wrong. Let's assume that you decide to work 25% overtime, so that's 10 hours a day instead of 8, until you've caught up with the missed work. So every day you still have to do that full day's work, and then you do a quarter of the missed day's work. It takes 4 days of 25% overtime to make up for 1 day of slippage. If you slipped 3 days, it will take 12 days, which is almost 3 work weeks, to catch up. That's why it's nice to have a check-in every 2 to 3 days. If you waited a week before noticing slips, it could take an entire month of overtime to catch up, and that's assuming that you can even work that much overtime and stay sane. If you can't catch up, change your scope. We both know that putting in 25% overtime for a month isn't actually going to happen. Even if you put in the hours, you'll be as fried as a Charleston pickle by the end of the day. Your work would suck, and besides, you have a life to live and exciting underwear you need to knit. You can't afford to crumble into an anxiety-ridden bundle of insecurities just because a pointy-haired bozo boss refuses to listen to reality. And that is why you scheduled your soonest time you know it's too late milestone. When that one slips, it's time to sit down with the boss, explain the situation, and propose that you rescope the rest of the project, only this time with a more realistic time frame. Faced with incontrovertible evidence that the schedule was unrealistic, your boss will relent and will restore your project plan to sanity. In the extremely unlikely event that your boss still refuses to face reality, it may be time to take matters into your own hands. The ancient Babylonians invented more than just sundials. They also invented human sacrifice. You've got knitting needles? Maybe it's time to call your boss in for a more intense, heart-to-heart conversation. The pyramids may have been completed according to schedule, but since then, nothing else has been. Don't stress it. Set deadlines and major milestones so that you can monitor your progress. Set mini deadlines every 2 to 3 days for yourself so you never fall too far behind without noticing it. Small slips require big work to recover. If your boss gives you unrealistic goals, make sure you have a milestone for that first moment when you'll be able to prove to your boss that the project needs to be rescoped, and then sit down with your boss for that heart-to-heart and take matters into your own hands. Your schmoopy is eager for their exciting underwear, and that's one deadline you won't want to miss. I'm Steve Robbins. Follow Get It Done Guy on Twitter and Facebook. If you want great keynote speeches on productivity, living an extraordinary life, or entrepreneurship, hire me. Find me at steverobbins.com or join my personal mailing list by texting Get It Done to 33444. Plus, you'll get a free copy of my secret book chapter on how to build relationships that help you succeed. Work less, do more, and have a great life.